Morning. Welcome to Wednesday morning today, the February the 4th. And the devotion today is entitled The Secret of Marriage. Kind of a jump from where we were, but that's what it is. The Secret of Marriage, quoting from Ephesians chapter 5, verses 31 and 32. A man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery. That's also the passage where he likens Christ and the church. Christ would be the groom, and the church is the bride. And some mysteries are laid out there between the likenesses between the physical human marriage and the spiritual marriage of Christ and his church. I'm tired of listening to sentimental talks on marriage. At weddings, in church, and in Sunday school, much of what I've heard on the subject has as much depth as a Hallmark card. While marriage is many things, it is anything but sentimental. Marriage is glorious but hard. It's a burning joy and strength, and yet it is also blood, sweat, and tears, humbling defeats, and exhausting victories. No marriage I know more than a few weeks old could be described as a fairy tale come true. Therefore, it is not surprising that the only phrase in Paul's famous discourse on marriage in Ephesians 5 that many couples can relate to is verse 32, printed above, it says. Sometimes you fall into bed after a long, hard day of trying to understand each other, and you can only sigh. This is all a profound mystery. At times, your marriage seems to be an unsolvable puzzle, a maze in which you feel lost. I believe all this, and yet there's no relationship between human beings that is greater or more important than marriage. In the Bible's account, God himself officiates at the first wedding in Genesis 2:22 to 25. And when the man sees the woman, he breaks into poetry and exclaims, "At last!" Everything in the text proclaims that marriage, next to our relationship to God, is the most profound relationship there is. And that is why, like knowing God himself, coming to know and love your spouse is difficult and painful, yet rewarding and wondrous. The most painful, the most wonderful. This is the biblical understanding of marriage. And there has never been a more important time to lift it up and give it prominence in our culture. That seems to be a subject that needs maybe another page or two. And maybe, I don't know, I haven't looked to see where we'll be at tomorrow. Well, it's still on marriage. And again on the 6th as well. It is a mystery type thing, especially the way it's put there by Paul in Ephesians chapter 5. And again, as we began, the likeness between Jesus and his connection to his bride, the church, and what he does for his bride is then to be what we human husbands are supposed to be doing for our brides as well. And it's important we pay attention to that, because the sacrifice that's required in a happy marriage is one that can be difficult. Sometimes we have to not do what we want to do and instead seek to do what our mate wants to do, some place to go, whatever the case may be. It's about, especially for the husband in Ephesians 5, it's about serving our wives, as husbands serving our wives, so that they can be the best of themselves, to strengthen who they are, and and be happy about that. Because if you do that, just as Christ has done for the church, he gets back a bride who is loving, a bride who is achieving as the church. That's part of our purpose in the world, is to improve so that we are the best that we can be. And he does that for us. And that's then what the earthly husband is to do for the wife. And it's a two-way street as you read that passage. And that's an important realization to make and to have when we enter marriage. If we're not ready to make sacrifices for each other, we might want to rethink our choice and what it is we're doing. Because if we don't want to do that, if we're not going to work at it, it won't be long before we're not real happy with the choice we made. But it is a profound mystery, as the passage says. The two become one flesh. That's why God created Eve. He looked and he said, I think Adam needs a helper. And I don't think we should see that as a downer for Eve, but what it means is he needs somebody to complete him. And I know that that men have a bad history of being prideful and self-supporting kind of thing, but we can't do it alone. That's just the reality of it. We need a helpmate. We need somebody who's completes us. Because let's face it, guys, we we can be lacking in some ways, and if we have looked around and got a sense of this woman we just met, she's the one God wants for me, and it's not love at first sight kind of stuff, but it is a pondering of that. I know that I know that for a fact. I was always impressed by Sue. Raised Catholic, never really had a close connection to another preacher's wife, so that she could learn from, like, what's the role of a preacher's wife. She just fell right into it. She picked up on what that calling required, and not only for herself but in supporting me as well. I know I'd be in bad shape if she hadn't been all in for the life of the ministry, and just very thankful that she realized that and did that, and it made, literally, the two became one. We seemed to most always, again, husbands and wives don't always agree on everything, and we didn't agree on everything all the time, but there was that support. There was that allowing me to take the trips that I've taken over the years as being the International Mission Board director, and traveling with me a number of those times as well. And when Sue passed, I don't know how many different comments I received. One especially came from one of our IMB missionaries, as she sent a message to me. She saw in us that we were a team. She saw in us that we were perfectly matched together, and we encouraged each other and supported each other. And that's what marriage is all about. I think that's what he's after here when it talks about there being he called marriage seems to be an unsolvable puzzle, a maze in which you feel lost. And you can for a while until you till you get it figured out down through time, and going through difficulties together and those kinds of things. You learn to know each other better, and in the process, you learn to love each other better, and you learn in that loving one another that you support each other, that you're there for each other, and treat each other with love and care. Marriage is God's idea, and we need to make sure that we're looking at it from that perspective, and know that He has this great gift for us. Blessings to you today on this Wednesday.